Recently, I've started to wonder if solo cruising is under threat because lines now seem to be discouraging it and are making it harder for solos to find affordable options than ever before. At the time of making this, I've done 87 solo cruises, and here's what I'm seeing changing around solo cruising, the challenges solos face, and importantly, the solutions that I have found. The first obstacle that solo cruisers are facing is many lines have become less solo friendly. Cruise lines are now focused on getting more families to cruise. The attraction being with up to 4 people in a cabin, they can make much more money on the upsells and onboard charges. Onboard spending has rocketed in recent years, with people buying more packages, more add-ons, more upcharge items, Wi-Fi, drinks, spa, events, casino, cooking classes, excursions, and so on. Here's some evidence though that I've got on how lines are actually becoming less solo friendly. Norwegian, which has been the leading line for solos with fleet-wide solo studios and a solo lounge, announced at the end of 2025 they're going to minimize the number of single cabins and focus on families more. The leading cruise line in the world based on passengers carried is Carnival. They have no solo cabins with no plans to have any on new builds. The next biggest player is Royal Caribbean, which does have some limited solo cabins, mostly on Quantum class ships, but on their newest ships like Icon and Star of the Seas and the sister ships coming, they have no solo cabins on the new builds. Even MSC, which is the other large mainstream resort cruise line, has very limited solo cabins on its latest class, like World Europa and World America. They just have 28 solo cabins. That's only 1% of cabins. Among premium lines, Princess, Celebrity, Holland America, and Cunard, few have a couple of solo cabins, while luxury and ultra-luxury lines like Viking, Silversea, Seabourn, and Regent Seven Seas have no solo cabins and none in their new builds either. So we're not seeing more solo cabins as new ships are built. We're not seeing that as the way of the future. And when it comes to fares, things are not looking good either. It appears that lines increasingly have quotas to limit the number of solos on any particular sailing. Let me give you some examples that I've found. On Celebrity, if I search a cruise for 2 people and then change the search to 1 person, I often get a result with fewer or even no cabins after changing to 1 person. If I change it back to 2 people, they all reappear. Just as bad, if it does show cabins, the price quoted for 1 person is sometimes higher than the same cabin price for 2 people. Some lines are very transparent on the solo quota too. So for example, I was looking to book a Ponant Antarctica expedition cruise, and they said they would only have a certain number of cabins they would make available and sell for solo travelers to book on any sailing. I'll talk later about how I work around this obstacle and how I do get better fares as a solo. But first, I think there is an even more important thing that solo travelers should be asking before they ask that question. The first thing solos always ask me is how they can get the lowest price as a solo. However, I think they should be thinking first about what experience they want and what lines and ships offer that, and then how do they get the best deal for that experience. If you go on the wrong line as a solo or even as a couple, no matter how good the price, you just won't have a great time. After deciding where I want to go, I focus first which is the right line for me to go there, which is matching what I like and what I want best. That's why, for example, I often focus on smaller ships if I can, because I found as a solo traveler, it's easy to connect and meet people, just like if you're in a small town versus a large city. I'm personally in less need of big evening entertainment. I don't need lots of bars. I like more enrichment than packed high energy activities. So I look for a line first that meets that. As an extreme, for example, one of my best solo experiences was on a barge cruise I did in France. It just had 15 people. But when I am on larger ships in the mainstream and premium space, I keep seeing another obstacle that solos encounter. The program or lack of a good one for solos, but I have solutions of how to overcome that obstacle that's important to bear in mind, again, before you ask the question about price. Most lines don't have much, nor are changing or improving solo programs. Probably the best is still Norwegian Cruise Line with the keycard access controlled solo studios and lounge area. There are then meetups, there's a way to connect with fellow solos and make arrangements to do things together. Ultra-luxury lines like Silversea, Regent and Crystal have social hostess or host who will host daily drinks and a dinner table for solos. For example, on a recent Regent Seven Seas Splendor cruise from New York to the Caribbean, there were daily hosted meetups and dining every night, which included visiting all the specialty restaurants. But on mainstream resort and premium lines, it's usually an unhosted solo meetup on the program. So solos are left to their own devices to meet, make plans, arrange activities together, and so on. And I see quite a few challenges with the solo setup this way. On one extreme, there are people who confuse solo with singles, and they think solo meetups are about laying the groundwork for hookups, which is not why most solos are there. Sometimes also solo meetups you might find someone desperate to not be alone will latch onto you, and for the rest of the cruise, you're having to shake them off and avoid doing everything with them, which can become challenging. Another issue with these solo meetups and these dinners is there are often very different ages, different likes and different interests, and it can be an incompatible mix. So for example, a great follower of the channel was on Virgin Voyages, and she was a different age and from a different country to the other solos. And she spoke about how at the arranged kind of tables where solos could go together, there was little to connect them, and she felt she was kind of ignored by them because there was nothing kind of bonding them and connecting them as a group. A mistake many solos make is working on the assumption, first of all, there will be a solo program and it will be a positive. Being solo may be the only similarity, and you all have very different interests, and why would you connect with these people on a cruise when you wouldn't any time else? So what do I do? Well, I don't usually go to solo meetups, and I connect and have a good time by following a different series of things. Before going on a cruise, I join the Cruise Critic roll calls or the Facebook groups for that cruise. I find and start making connections with people who have similar interests on that group. So once I'm boarded, I've already got people that I've connected with and ready to meet. I sign up for the Cruise Critic meet and greets that many cruise lines host, where people who've been chatting in the Cruise Critic group will actually meet up. And again, it's a great way to connect with those people. I also go to other real life meetings on board where I can connect with cruisers who have the same interests. For example, if you're gay, you normally got LGBT meetups, you've got the Friends of Bill W for people in recovery, but lines will run other meetups. It may be for veterans, crafters, knitters, service clubs, and they will almost always add a group if you ask them to do so. Also, I attend activities like trivia and deck and sports games. I found whenever I go to trivia or those events, people are very friendly. They're looking for people to add, to join their team, and it's a great way of then connecting and finding like-minded people. I've also found going on activity-driven excursions is good for connecting. Now, for example, I really like snorkeling, I like cycling excursions, and that sort of activity is great because the same people tend to go on them in every port too, so you end up seeing the same people, start talking to them. It might be on the catamaran going to the snorkeling area when you're stopping on the bike. But any kind of activity-based excursion is better than, say, a simple walking or panoramic tour for connecting with people. I then go for anytime dining and are asked to share a table, and I get then to dine with different people each night. So I'm meeting a wide range of people, some of which I don't click with, some which I do click with, and you often end up finding similarities and doing activities and things with. These things all have more value than relying on the solo program in my experience, because that's just too hit and miss. Personally, I don't mind being alone on solo cruises, but what if you are nervous or worry about feeling alone and this all just sounds like you're taking too great of a chance? Now, I've got some guaranteed solutions for that. The best option if you're worried about being alone is to go on a group or hosted cruising. For example, I've hosted some of my own Tips for Travelers group cruises. The recent one I hosted was a Panama group cruise. I had 20 solo travelers on that. Not only did they have guaranteed events, meetups, and like-minded people to engage with, go on tours with and so on, but I then ran some solo events specifically for them. Several other YouTube channels host cruises too. Paul and Carol Love to Travel, JJ Cruises, but many more. Some travel agents also host cruises. So for example, Walter Biscardi of Where's Walter Travel, that I recommend as a great agent in the United States, runs loads of groups. But you've also got large travel groups like vacationstogo.com who even host many cruises just for solos. But of course, bearing all this in mind, the biggest obstacle is still to find a way to cruise solo in an affordable way and how to avoid paying the same as two people as much as possible. So here are the techniques I successfully use these days, as well as one which I don't really use because it's not right for me, but I think it could work for many people. First, I book extremely early when cruises come on sale. That is basically the only way you're going to get one of the limited solar cabins and at a good price. To keep up to date with what ships have solar cabins, I can really recommend a great list on cruisefever.com. They keep updating it. Something I use a lot and strongly recommend are repositioning cruises because they're often half the price per night of the line's usual price. So effectively, I've wiped out the solar surcharge by going on them. Repositioning cruises are when ships are moved between the different regions at the beginning and end of each season. So for example, they're moving the ships to and from the Caribbean to Europe and Alaska at the beginning and end of the Caribbean season. They might be moving them between Japan and Alaska those seasons, or they might be moving them from Australia via French Polynesia and onto Hawaii, onto Alaska, and so on. They happen twice a year, usually April, May, and October, November. So of course you are limited when you can do them. If you like sea days, these are absolutely one of the best ways to cruise affordably as a solo. The third thing I do is keep an eye on cruise lines that regularly offer some sailings with low or no solar supplements. Now these tend to be running in the shoulder months at the start and the end of any season because demand there is low overall. Unfortunately, they tend to be the ultra luxury lines. Most have a section on their website listing these, and they include Seabourn, Silversea, Ponant, Regent, and lines like that. Several river cruise lines also have low or no solar supplement sailings, normally at the start and end of the European summer. And the ones to focus on are lines like Avalon, Ama Waterways, but Tauk has no solar supplements on their lower level cabins across the season, and Riviera runs a solar only ship, the MS George Eliot. One of the best ways to get more ad hoc solar deals is by following cruise lines on Instagram and Facebook, because this is where they often run flash sales and may launch solar discount offers. For example, as I was making this, Celebrity was running a 60% off second passenger, and Virgin Voyages an 80% off second passenger flash sale on Instagram and Facebook. This slashes the effective solar supplement to 30% on Celebrity and 20% on Virgin by using these deals. I've used these in the past by stepping in when they ran to book a Celebrity Cruises New York via Canada to Iceland cruise that I had on my wish list, and a Virgin Brilliant Lady Caribbean, again at phenomenal prices. I also spotted a solo deal on Crystal this way that I was able to then tap into in the past this way too. Although I've not used them, I know others who have, and these are solo cruise travel agents and websites. The biggest is vacationstogo.com. They have a solo cruise section with an up-to-date list of the latest offers with low or no solar supplement. And also they run their own hosted solo cruises. You can also sign up for their solo newsletter, so you'll keep getting the latest deals and their new hosted cruises offers. Now, one watch out with their hosted solo cruises, as in most cases, to get the best solo price, you do need to share a cabin. They will find a cabin mate of roughly the same age and of course the same sex. If they don't find one, you get to stay in a cabin by yourself, but just pay for one person. Other agencies include soloholidays.com, which serve the over 50s, and a UK company called Passion for Cruises, which also offers solo deals, but many solo hosted cruises too. The next one doesn't work for me, but could work for you, which is by having a cabin mate. There are several sites that are very active where you can seek and find a cabin mate. One is called My Cabin Mate. Now this is an app which is actually free to use. And then there's another site which is called Cabin Mate Finder. These sites are very active and definitely you can find a cabin mate there. Of course, you could also, as a solo traveler, look to share a cabin with friends or family and take advantage of the third person charge, which is much lower, but then share the cost of the total cabin between the three of you because it will cost less for every person. If you do that, I recommend trying to get a cabin that has a curtain between the bed and sofa bed area to give everybody a bit more privacy. But even as a solo, you should be aiming to go to the best places in the world that you possibly can. So join me over in this video where I talk about the absolute bucket list places to go. See you over there.